Hey guys, that's my bad. I put the wrong thumbnail up again. Jeez, like I'm so sorry for that, eh? Shit, I keep doing that. Let's turn this bloody volume down here, sorry. Oh jeez, okay. Alright, so the link's been shared. It should be on all the public platforms. So hey guys, I'm sharing from my iPad, so my video is off. But tonight we're doing connections and conversations with Theo, and I'm going to be participating a bit. We are live on all of the public channels. The public channels being the MyRehab Helper Facebook profile, the ARC or the MyRehab Facebook page, and the YouTube duly diagnosed YouTube channel. If you want to participate, jump on. The link is in the comments. I did post it. And just excuse the background. I might have some kids making a noise in the background there. But if you're on we're also broadcasting to the private and unsearchable or secret Facebook group, the MyRehab Cafe Facebook group. So if you're on the Facebook, the MyRehab Cafe, and you want a higher degree of anonymity, please wait until we switch over. We're going to be broadcasting for the first 15 to 20 minutes on the public channels, then we're switching over exclusively to the MyRehab Cafe. So hang 10 for that before we switch over. And we've got an interesting topic tonight. Theo, do you want to tell us a bit more about the topic you have in mind, eh?
Yeah, guys. Hi. Welcome. And the topic tonight, get ready for it. It's going to be a chunky one. It's called Cognitive Restructuring and a Solution-Focused Mindset, Identifying Unhealthy Mindsets and Unhealthy Thinking. How to do that. Everything that I share is from my own personal journey, of self-discovery. These things that I share are not just something that I pulled out of Google or something like that. This is something that I've worked hard on, put together, and I've applied it to my life, and have seen radical changes in my life and in my mental health. So I'm very, very excited to share this with you tonight. And we're going to be chatting, and I'm going to be bringing up a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas that you might not have thought of, and I'm going to bring up a lot of abilities that you might not have thought that you had, that you do have. And hopefully at the end of it all, like Bobby C says, if you can take one thing away from this tonight, then that's a win for us.
Sure, thanks, Theo. Okay, so before we started, we were chatting a little bit, and you mentioned a primary truth. Do you wanna maybe talk about that for a bit?
Ryan, so you know me. My brain is in hyperdrive 24/7. Okay. And and it was very important for me in my journey of self-discovery to bring some order to some of the chaos that was going on in my mind. I mean, I struggled. Hey, I struggled with anxiety and depression and post-traumatic stress and self-love deficiency and low self-esteem. Boy, oh boy, oh boy! I tell you, it was a suffering on a level that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And so I was desperate. I needed to bring some kind of order, some kind of structure into this chaos that was happening in my mind. And one of the concepts that I want to introduce tonight is called your primary source of truth. Now, that automatically might get you thinking already, and that's the point. That's the point of this thing, is just to access and harness this amazing organ that we have in our head, our brain, just to get thinking about what is your primary source of truth. Okay, because we do have one, I believe. You know, if we really think about it, where do you extract your truth from? What is true to you? Okay, in my case, truth came from what people thought about me. Okay, and if I think of my childhood, you know, and you know how you know, I'm just going to say it, how stern and how physically violent my father was, you know, left me with some beliefs and some realities about myself that brought a lot of difficulty into my life growing up as a teenager, growing up as an adult, trying to enter into the workforce, trying to enter into relationships, bringing those messages and those, you know, at that stage, at that young age, you know, my parents or my caretaker was my primary source of truth.
Sure.
Okay, so if my primary source of truth is teaching me and nurturing me, he's basically telling me what color the sky is and what color the grass is, and that's a tree, and that you must touch, and that you mustn't touch, and so that is essentially what forms our primary source of truth. Yes, we grow up, and eventually we split away from our primary source of truth, and we latch onto something else. All right, that could be, in my instance, it was my imagination or my pathology. Things that thoughts that I would put together in order to formulate a conclusion, whereby I would make a decision based on that conclusion. Now,
Theo,
the things that are, yeah.
Sorry. Hey, Sophia, thanks for tuning in. Sorry, I just want to come in there, right? So, and I don't want to derail this whole thing, so just bring it back if I have derailed it, please. So obviously, when we use the word truth, right, we've got objective reality and our own subjective experiences, right?
Yes.
Okay. So objective reality being, you know, something like the sky is blue, right?
Yes.
Or you know, water is wet or whatever.
Yeah.
So objective, you obviously make on making reference to anything objective.
No.
It's basically something sort of like intrinsic or internal.
Yeah, I'm referencing more your subjective reality.
Truth, okay, because that so, you know, and this is where I'm going to derail it, right? So there's a lot of sort of stuff going on out there in social media with regards to transgender sort of ideas, things like that, right? So somebody's subjective experience could be that they feel, trapped in a different sex's body type of thing, right? So, am I sort of am I heading on the right track with this whole thing, or am I derailing it?
So the way that I'm interpreting that, Ryan, is what you're saying is that emotions is a primary source of truth.
Yeah,
Okay?
emotions. Yeah. Okay.
So my emotions can easily become a primary source of truth. I feel like I'm being disrespected right now. Is that that's
okay.
my truth? But is it true?
Yes. Okay, I hear you. Is it true? Is it okay? But then when you so that's your truth. But then you ask the question, is it true in an objective sense?
I'm asking, I'm asking, is it true in an objective sense?
In an objective sense, yes.
Yeah, if our primary source of truth is completely subjective, then the balance is tipped, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, I mentioned earlier before we started, right? So being a youngster, being at home, my old man coming home with his eyes all red, late in the evening after working really hard, right? And sort of, sitting there thinking, oh geez, he looks miserable. I must have done something wrong. Okay, so that's my own subjective sort of reality, or the way I'm perceiving the whole thing, right? So the objective sort of reality was more likely the fact that he just really had a rough day, and it actually had nothing to do with me, right?
100%, Ryan. And I used to think every threat that I could imagine was real. That was my life. I had every threat that I could perceive, I perceived it to be 100% real, and it was a real struggle.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so okay, so I suppose, well, I'm assuming where you're going with this is sort of, I mean, have you got some tips and pointers for people to kind of like, because our thoughts can race away with us, right? I mean, I remember being in early recovery and getting up in the morning and getting in the shower and kind of like thinking, my thoughts were racing. I remember this one experience in particular, and my thoughts were racing, and I was thinking about, geez, I'm going to have to go and face that person, and I'm going to have to say this, and I'm going to have to do this, and this is how they're probably going to react. And, and then there was just this moment where I thought, okay, whoa, hold on a minute, and I actually heard myself shout my name in my head, to myself. And I was like, hey, man, like, just stop, you're in the shower, like, be in the shower,
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say to my clients, just stop, look around.
Yeah.
Are you in danger? Is there danger present right now? And oftentimes that roots and grounds themselves in the objective reality, because the person is reacting as though they are in danger, but objectively there's no danger in that moment.
Yeah, so I think, and listen, this is now taking it to a place where I don't think we should really go, to be honest, but I want to go there for a second. But somebody that believes they're trapped in the opposite sex's body, like, that's something deep that's going on, right? That's hardcore sort of self perception or self whatever, right?
Yes.
And having that conversation with somebody, I think, I mean, that must be incredibly challenging. I mean, I know both of us aren't psychologists or whatever. I know you've got a lot of training, but I could only imagine a conversation like that sort of being incredibly challenging. Because
Ryan,
we're dealing with subjective and objective realities, you know.
Yeah, Ryan, I've had many clients, LGBTQI clients, that have chosen to rather come and talk it out with a recovery coach, and not disqualify psychology or psychologists at all, but just as a complement to their current journey. I've worked with many LGBTQI people who, you know what, at the end of the day is we're trying to get out of the whatever your reality is. There is a chance for you to get a handle on what is going on in your mind. There is hope for you to not feel victimized every single day. You know, and hopefully, if we get through this, maybe I could just share. It doesn't matter what gender you identify with. You know, these types of practices or these types of skills are things that can apply to anybody.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think, you know, maybe I'm out of my depths with regards to that one. I must be honest. But there has been a lot of buzz around it on at least on my social media platforms lately, and you know, I think somebody being confused about their sexuality or whatever. I think you know, something like that definitely requires a lot of therapy and, you know, talking therapy to kind of like explore what exactly it is that's going on. You know, you know. And again, I want to move away from this, but you know, there's a lot of really young kids out there. You know, I know this one kid, you know, she's about 12, I think, and she was called a straggot because she's straight.
Yeah.
Okay, which is like, obviously, I mean, that's like a really horrible, condescending term or phrase or whatever.
Yes.
But it's kind of like a good indication of where, I mean, it says a lot about where our society is at the moment and where youngsters are at the moment with regards to their own sort of self perception and the way that, you know, and how that can manifest and turn into bullying and just sort of like spiral out of control. But again, Ryan, I think I've derailed the whole thing, man.
No, not at all, Ryan. Not at all. Okay. That what you just said now is exactly why this is burning in my heart to get out.
Sure.
Because we're talking about who are growing up in a society where it says don't trust any other truth other than what's coming from us. So if a bully says that you're not good enough, don't just believe it blindly.
Yeah.
If a bully calls you or somebody labels you with the word fraggot,
straggot. So it's like, so it's like it's straight because, you know, so it's because they aren't identifying as some kind of gender.
But those terrible labels that get put on people is somebody trying if you don't have a primary source of truth, something else is going to come and try and tell you who you are.
Well, you know, 100%. You know, I was watching. You know, if we're going to sort of go into the domain as well of what is it called? Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot, man. Carl Jung talks about it a lot as well. Geez, what is the word? Anyway, so it's like you know, like mythological sort of like ideas, right? So Disney movies, for example.
Yeah.
You know, growing up watching Aladdin, you know, and him going through this journey, and you get a Lion King. You got Scar, you got the bad guy, and you got you know, you got the good guys, and you got the sort of like Disney apparently lately is putting out a lot of sort of mixed gender or like there was a new movie that came out. There was a lot of controversy about it, where there was like a gay scene
Yes.
that happened or whatever. I don't know if you know about that or if you've heard about that, but
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of concern by a lot of people, and also especially being in South Africa, which is it's moving away from being like a conservative sort of mindset. But there's still a lot of conservative people in South Africa, like a hell of a lot, right? And there's a lot of alarm around that kind of thing, because you spoke about where are we getting our information from, and I watch some of the stuff that my kids watch.
Yes.
And I know what I watched when I was growing up. I spent a fair amount of time watching Little Mermaid on Saturday morning with my breakfast, and watching Ninja Turtles and watching, so that's where I was getting a lot of my sort of ideas from as well, right? So what we're exposed to as youngsters doesn't necessarily just have to come from our parents, or it obviously comes. I suppose it comes from our parents up until a certain age, but when you hit a certain age, it starts coming more from our peer groups and what we're exposed to on TV and so on. I don't know if you want to.
Comes from a source, and when I say a primary source of truth, emphasis on the word source. So that idea or ideal comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So be it Instagram, be it Disney, be it whatever movies, whatever source, that comes into your consciousness, and it leaves you with an emotional deposit, right?
Yeah.
And it's just about being aware of that. Okay, being aware. And why do you think that there's such a big fuss about Disney and this whole thing from the liberals and all of that? Because of, they realize the impact of this source and what impact it's going to have on whoever watches it.
And sort of, I suppose the older generations, their values might be in a different place to what a lot of the younger generation is. Yeah. And you mentioned values and principles and ideals. Okay.
Yes.
And I know for me personally, sort of going through addiction. Okay. I ended up in a place where I had no choice but to recognize that my fundamental truth, as you put it, right, had to have been flawed, because I just couldn't help myself. Things were a mess. I wasn't getting anywhere. People were turning away from me. I was causing conflict left, right, and center all the time. So my fundamental truth, had to be reevaluated. I was forced to reevaluate it.
100%.
And so we can talk about that for a bit, hey?
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching many movies where there's a fight, there's a murder, or the cop loses his best friend, partner, or whatever, and then what does he do? Goes to a bar and he sits there and he gets hammered, or he gets drunk, or he gets inebriated. Sure. Okay, so I remember. Okay, so when I'm in that state of distress, and this is like true, this is like really true. Yeah. Okay, what do? I'm in the state of distress. My girlfriend's broken up with me. I've just lost my job, and now, okay, so what have I learned? What people do when they're in this place? Well, just go to a bar and sit there and just start drinking. And I'd go there and I'd do that, and I'd be drinking. This tastes terrible, but I guess this is what I'm supposed to do when I'm in this state.
Yeah, man. Look, I 100% relate, and family cultures perpetuate that kind of thing too, right? A lot of people talk about toxic masculinity and all that kind of thing, right? And I don't know if I buy into that too much, but I think there is a degree of it that did, from a cultural point of view, that did kind of have an impact on me. In that, it is frowned. It was almost frowned upon to kind of like get vulnerable about emotions and about what's really going on for you and about what's, what you need to talk about, right? And yeah, the fundamental way that I learned to deal with those things was, to kind of like keep it to myself and, possibly get wasted. But moving from that, yeah, no, go ahead.
Can I do a thought experiment, Ryan?
Sure.
So, right. So you have little Johnny, okay? And little Johnny has a very, stern, violent, militant father, okay? And the father says to little Johnny, I saw you touch that thing on the table, and I don't want you to touch it. But little Johnny, being little Johnny, he obviously wants to push the boundaries. He wants to see how far his connection with his caretaker goes, and how much can he trust this relationship. So what does he do? He goes and he touches that thing that he's not supposed to touch. Then little Johnny's dad goes, Johnny, if you touch that again, you are going to get the beating of your life. Okay, so what does little Johnny do? Okay, out of fear, now complies.
Yeah.
Motivated by fear, now complies. Okay, so the Johnny's dad, he gets praised for Johnny's good behavior. Okay, but little Johnny is actually sitting there. He's motivated by fear. And do that enough times, over and over and over again, we have big Johnny that's who's now been programmed to be motivated by fear, who's fear-based in everything he does, that when he has a need to reach out and touch or reach out and have a need, he has an automatic distortion that when I have a need, I'm in danger. The moment I have a need, I'm actually in danger. And actually what that can happen is can actually cause the fight or flight response to kick in. When I have a need, I can't put it out there because I've been trained and taught that when I have a need, I'm in danger.
Yeah. So Theo, we're gonna have to move over to the private group. Time's up in the public channels. But in summary, I just want to quickly summarize for the public channels before we move on to more of a solution-based sort of like look at the whole thing, right? In summary, we really touched on something. I think the core thing that we really touched on is that our subjective reality or subjective truths, can most certainly be molded, and there are sources, specific sources that we derive those truths from.
Yes.
As youngsters, I'm talking about, as children, right? And being somebody, being a father, obviously it's important to me that I've got a set of values, and I want my children to be exposed to certain sources that are gonna move them towards a sense of well-being. For everybody that's a parent out there that's watching, I think that's obviously, it's very obviously that's what as parents what we need to sort of look out for. It's not to say that we're going to get it perfectly right or whatever the case, but and if at any point we discover that there is maybe some mistruths or some damage or some or whatever that we experience either in ourselves or in that in that of our children, that we can. So there are places out there that can help with this kind of thing, and there are professionals that are equipped to deal with it. Do you want to wrap up quickly so we can, or give a quick summary on your end?
Yeah, so absolutely. If I had to look back at my life and isolate a time when I had a massive relapse, and I I reverse that step by step back in time, when it from about 2 weeks ago, before the relapse happened, I can trace it back to a source or something that I believed that started that process towards my relapse. But when I look back now, I can realize that what I believed to be true at that time wasn't necessarily true in an objective way. And so jump onto the private platform and listen and hear about some skills of how you can differentiate what is true and what is not.
Yeah. Cool. If you could just mute yourself quickly there for a second, Theo, and I'm going to switch off on the public channels. Thanks to everyone that's watched on the public channels. If you want to know more about the MyRehab Cafe, which we're moving over to now for the interesting part of the conversation, you can learn more at www.myrehab.com or myrehabcafe.com or myrehabcafe.co.za. Thanks, everybody. Ciao.